1979, Ridley Scott gave us my favorite film franchise of all time, the Alien series. Man, I love these movies, particularly the first two, but I actually like them all. Even the ones that aren't quite so good, I still love the movies. But those first two are masterpieces of filmmaking. The first one is a beautiful horror movie. Man, is it creepy. Well, this series is ripe for the tabletop gaming community to use it, to take it and build games that give you the feeling of being trapped in a space station with these horrible creatures. So my list today is 5 games that are based on or inspired by the Alien franchise. And I'm going to start off with the only one that actually uses the intellectual property, the wonderful Legendary Encounters, an Alien deck building game. For me, in my experience with gaming, deck building games typically have a difficult time really capturing a theme well and getting you into the feelings of what's going on in the game. And there's a few that do it well, and Legendary Encounters Alien is one that is absolutely perfect. This thing is great. The box that you get gets all 4 movies, the original 4 movies, Alien, Aliens, Aliens 3, and Alien Resurrection, all in there with custom decks for each movie. And each one of the scenarios that you play in this game, they'll play out the entire film all in cards. And you have to deal with all the objectives that you go through those entire movies to get to that end. And really, there's a high level of tension to how this game operates. Encounter cards will kind of come out and move down that track, and you don't know what those cards are. They could be aliens stalking you, or they could be the objectives you're looking for, or events that could happen, or hazards that could cause you trouble. And you're not sure what they are, and you need to use cards from your hand to scan those cards to kind of look in those rooms and see what those things are so that you can prepare for those hazards as they come. And as they fall into the combat zone, you have to fight the aliens. And I tell you, the best part of this game, the most thematic and wonderful thing about this game is how you could get a chest burster in your chest. If a chest burster jumps onto you, you could try to kill it, but if you can't kill it with the cards you have, your friends have to try to kill it. And if they can't kill it, it gets shuffled into your deck, and the next time it comes back out, it's a chest burster, it explodes, and you die in the game. This is such a perfectly thematic element to this game, and most of the stuff in this game is thematic. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the other Legendary Encounters games, including the Predator one. I love Predator as well. The Predator one didn't do it for me, but for some reason, Alien it just worked. Every aspect to the deck building work, the characters are fun to play, the coordination amongst your companions in the game. It's just a great deck building game and really captures the Alien theme perfectly. Escape from the aliens in outer space. One of the most fantastic things about the Alien franchise, particularly the first movie, is the wonderful fear and ambience that this film creates. The first movie was a haunted house, right? Like Ripley is creeping around this essentially haunted spaceship where there's this one creature stalking you. And there's such a level of suspense and tension in that movie. And a lot of times it's very difficult to get that in a board game, but this game absolutely perfectly captures it. As long as you allow it to happen in your gaming group, this game could really amp up the fear and the tension and the suspense that happens. Because basically, half the players are aliens and half the players are humans. And it's a complete hidden movement game. Everybody is hidden and no one knows anyone else's role and no one knows anyone else's location. You have a little pad that's a whiteboard pad that has the map, and you write down the coordinates of where you're moving to. The aliens get to move twice, the humans get to move once. The aliens want to eat the humans, and the humans want to get to the escape pods and eject themselves. If somebody ejects themselves, they win the game. Anytime an alien eats a human, they become an alien, and you switch sides, and now you're chasing down the other humans. Now, the reason this is so ambient, the game has such suspense to it, is that there's barely any talking in this game. On your turn, all you do is draw a card, and the card will tell you whether you have to announce your location because you made noise, or you were silent, you don't have to say anything, or if you're lucky, you could lie about your coordinate. All that this does is there's nothing happening in this game other than people announcing coordinates. Around the table, slowly, everybody's announcing coordinates. Now, that may sound a little boring, because a lot of games are raucous and loud and everybody's laughing and having a good time, but this one is a very silent game. And if you put on some cool ambient music, like you go to YouTube, you find like 8 hours of space station sounds, which is just a low rumble and some blips and blops here and there. And you turn down the lights and you get everybody like, and they're calling out the numbers and you're like, oh my God, they're like really close to me. Are they an alien or are they a human or are they lying? And then you're writing down, you're like, oh my God, like I got to move and I got to try to get away from these people. Like it's the tension amps so much with this game. And the production is beautiful. It's a very minimalist production. It's just right. Everything is black except the little player boards, they're white, but like everything is black and there's not a whole lot of color. So it just feels exactly like the theme that it's trying to achieve. So this game captures that fright and suspense that first Alien film captured. And it's such a fun one. And it plays up to like 8 players. So you can get a whole gang of people together just running all over this space station trying to escape or eat each other. Wonderful game. I highly recommend checking this one out. Love it. Anomaly. Now, this one is going to divert a little bit from the theme of aliens. There isn't an alien monster, like a xenomorph type monster chasing you down in this game. It's actually an anomaly, like a space anomaly, like if you think of it from Star Trek. But this anomaly has an intelligence and it's trying to feed off of the players. The board is a round board. And again, like in Escape the Aliens from Outer Space, it's a complete hidden movement game where everybody is hidden. But there is a team of humans and one single anomaly. The team of humans' goal is to kill the anomaly, to deal damage to it and get it off the station. And the goal of the anomaly is to feed off of the humans. So, unlike most hidden movement games, everybody's trying to find each other. So you want to be together. But the thing is, it all happens with cards. And when the humans play the cards, they give the cards to the anomaly. Now, your best cards are then their best cards. So you have to time it just right, just perfectly, so that you meet up with that alien, you find out where he is, and you meet up with that alien, and you deal a bunch of damage on him, and you get the hell out of there so he can't use those cards back on you. There's a level of tension to this game as well. Man, it is so much fun. The collaboration between the humans is fun, because you don't know where the other humans are, but you're cooperating with them. So you have to kind of just deduce where they might be and give each other clues across the table based on what you're saying without giving it away to the anomaly. And sometimes the anomaly gets a pretty good idea where you are, and then you just throw caution in the wind and just say, I'm here, you're there, right? I have this in my hand, you have that in your hand. Who cares if he knows? Let's get him. So like, it's a game that's like moving around slowly and you're trying to be sneaky about what information. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing, the shit hits the fan, and you just start throwing damage and trying to get the hell out of there. And this game ends with a very climactic battle where there's lots of actions happening, lots of damage being thrown. And then sometimes it goes right back to that, sneaking around concept again. So there's like highs and lows in this game. And it really captures the feeling of aliens, of this one entity on your ship trying to get you, and you're trying to defeat it. Boy, is this game good. I was surprised. I never heard of this game before. When I played it, I loved it. So I highly recommend you check out Anomaly, man. This one is good. Nemesis. Whereas the last 2 games on this list try to capture the fear, the suspense, the ambience of those films, this one tries to capture what Aliens, the second one from James Cameron, what that captured. The high-octane Marine versus alien, just all-out war. Now, it does have elements of the first movie in it as well, but it's really all about surviving the aliens and how they're just tearing at you and ripping you to pieces. So in this game, you wake up in your cryostasis pod and they malfunction for some reason, and you can't remember a whole lot of things, so you don't know where the rooms are on the ship. So you're exploring the ship and finding all kinds of crazy rooms, that do all different things. In the med bay, the surgical wing, the kitchens, the showers, the armory, all those different things. And those rooms will do different things for you. And you're finding equipment all the way along, which is med kits and tools and weaponry and all kinds of different things that you can use against the aliens. And the goal of the game is you're trying to repair the engines, you're trying to course correct the ship to get to Earth, and then survive until you get there. And this is much harder than you think, because there's aliens popping out all over the place trying to kill you while you do it. This game is a game that threw everything in. Like, they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, into this game. And much of that was completely and utterly inspired by Aliens. It's just everything. They got the face huggers, basically, like there's creatures that will get on you and they'll infect you, and later they could pop out of you and kill you. And it's interesting because the cards will go into your deck, and later you have to scan those cards using one of those red filament things that will show you if you're infected or not. And you have to go to the surgical wing, get them removed, and things like that. So it's got that whole concept. It's got the Carter Burke concept from Aliens, where he's a traitor against the group and he's got his own objectives. This game has hidden objectives, and some of them could be a murderer, or it could be you're a traitor, you're trying to send the ship to Mars or whatever. So you could be betraying the group in this one as well. Of course, it has the Queen that pops out, and it's a gigantic version of the aliens that are trying to murder you. So just about everything you can think of that's a trope of the Alien franchise is jammed into this game, which makes it rather complex and a little bit bloated, but I appreciate it as an Alien fan because I get the complete experience. Like I said, this is more of a high octane version. It's a huge production with all kinds of beautiful miniatures and artwork everywhere and components coming out my ears. It's a wonderful game, but it's not the same concept as some of these others. So I think it really fits the list, right? Because all of these different games kind of capture different aspects of the Alien franchise, and this one captures the exciting action movie that was Aliens from James Cameron. Space Hulk. So the last one on the list here is a classic board game that was clearly inspired by the Alien franchise. Now, in 1987, the Warhammer 40,000 universe introduced the Tyranid, which were also clearly inspired by the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. Basically, they're a sort of a bug, reptile, weird creature alien race that fly around the universe in hive fleets, and they get to planets and they devour the entire planet. They take over spaceships, and essentially they change that planet to their own environment, which is very similar to the xenomorphs in the Alien franchise. When they get on a space station or a planet, they kind of terraform that planet to match them, where they have all that weird ooze that comes off of them and it solidifies into those strange corridors and things. So they kind of have a very similar vibe, and they even look very similar. Now, Space Hulk is a game where you take the role of the Space Marines, Blood Angels, that find this derelict ship, a Space Hulk, floating through space, and they're like, hey, let's go down there and check it out, see what's going on in there. So they bust in, and guess what? It is infested with Tyranid. So this is a two-player game where you play out a series of scenarios where you're exploring this Space Hulk, and in just about every single one, the Tyranids tear in and try to rip you to pieces. Now, this is a slow and plodding style of tactical miniatures game. You get beautiful miniatures in the box and awesome looking board tiles that sort of build this sector of the Space Hulk. And the reason I say it's slow is because every single movement you make is extremely important. Like every single turn, like you turn your miniature this way, it costs movement, and it matters because the Tyranids are extremely powerful in close combat, whereas the Space Marines have all the firepower. So if those Tyranids close in on you, they'll take you out in one hit. They'll just slash you and you're done. And you have a team of like 4 or 5 or 6 different Space Marines here. But the Space Marines have all the firepower. They got the miniguns and the flamethrowers and the grenades and all different stuff. So you see them coming down the hallway, you start opening up and blasting those things like in Aliens, where the Marines versus the Xenomorphs. It's very similar to that, where those creatures were so deadly versus the Marines. It's the same situation here. It's a beautiful tactical game. It is so good. It's not as high octane, I guess, as like a NEMESIS or some other kind of dungeon crawly fighty games. This one is more about the slow tactics, but boy, does it capture that feeling. It has so many elements of the Alien movies too. Remember in Aliens, when Hudson was walking around with the motion tracker, they emulate that in this game in the form of blips, where you have these little blip tokens that are all over the board, and you know that there are aliens over there because of your motion sensors, but you don't know how many. So when you round that corner and the blip turns into the aliens, it could have been one, or it could have been like 6 or 7 of them. They come tearing down the hallway with their claws bare and they're ready to grab you. And you just open up on them with your minigun, tearing them up. Man, this game is a blast. It always kind of favors the Tyranid, which it should, based on the Alien franchise. And that makes it fun for two players, right? Like you're going into these uphill battle missions and you're trying to fight against these odds. And since it's two players, you're like, oh man, I'm having trouble beating this one. Let's swap sides and see how you do in this one. And there's tons of scenarios in the book, all with different kind of objectives and things you're looking for and things you have to do. This is a classic game with beautiful components, awesome miniatures, ripe for painting. This is just a great game. If you've never checked out Space Hulk, I suggest that you do. All right, gang, that's my list of 5 games based on or inspired by the Alien franchise, my favorite movies of all time. And I'm always on the lookout for more amazing games. I know there are more out there. I've played more out there. There's even one that's coming from Gale Force 9 that's based on aliens. So if you guys have any other suggestions for alien-themed board games, throw them in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to try them out. And until next time, have a happy Halloween, everybody. Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.